Hey you guys, welcome back to this episode of In The DAW. This is Jerry Mateo here, and in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the brand new UVI Plate Reverb. Now, I'm a huge fan of UVI plugins. I own a ton of them. I really want to check out their thesaurus pretty soon. I love their Spark reverb. I've actually done a couple of videos on the Spark verb on a couple of other people's sites and channels. And when they released their plate, which is just called Plate, I was extremely excited and I went and contacted them to get a copy so I could check it out. Now, I did not read the manual before checking this out, and I was extremely surprised on how much control this thing actually has. Now, you have your basic controls for reverb. You have a decay time, mix control, low cut, drive, pre-delay, width, and reverb gain. And the decay can go from 200 milliseconds all the way to infinity plus, which is ridiculous. You also have a really cool little spline EQ right here, which is pretty interesting because unlike most other reverb plugins that have an EQ in them, you just have a normal high and low shelf with maybe a high and low pass. This is a genuine spline style EQ, so you can actually get some pretty interesting shapes in it, and it can help you dial out frequencies you don't like. It comes with an RTA, and then you have full control for the dampening and the friction control and the air. So you have the decay time for your low frequencies and a crossover. You have the dampening for your high frequencies and another crossover. And then you have this air section, which is dampening for the very, very high-end frequencies. And this, again, has a crossover. But what's really cool is if you bring it all the way down, you can see that it actually goes into this warp where it like reverses on itself, which is really cool. Now, as far as that goes, that's a lot of control that a plate reverb has. And I've seen those pretty much be the standard controls for most plate reverbs. Aside from the spline style EQ, most of them have EQs. Then I actually checked out the plate itself. You have 5 different materials: steel, gold, silver, titanium, and aluminum. Aluminum has the most high frequencies that I've noticed, and gold just sounds like gold. It sounds amazing. But then you can control the size of the reverb plate. You can make it really big. You can make it really thin and long. You can make it really tall. You can make it a box. Let's make it really tall real quick. And all of this, as you see right here, is going to change the frequency response and the overall tone of the reverb itself. You also have the ability to control where the speakers are going to be located and where your microphones are going to be located. So this is going to change the overall tone of the reverb. And this is a great way of kind of creating your own plate reverb. Instead of having a emulation of, let's say, a vintage EMT plate reverb, you can have something that kind of sounds like an EMT plate reverb and then change the positioning up just slightly and then change the actual imperfections on the plate using this section right here to give you a very unique sound. Now, of course, you can change the size with the area and aspect ratio, but then you have tension. This will change the tension of the plate reverb itself, of the material. And if you have this set all the way up, you can get some very metallic, very artificial sounding artifacts. When you're setting up a plate, you usually have a certain amount of tension that you want. This is going to give it a more higher frequency tone to it. You can modulate the modes of the frequencies, and this can have some pitch shifting style sounds to it. And then you have the quality: low, medium, high, very high, pristine, and insane. In this reverb, it actually does a lot. It sounds completely different. And I'm going to say right now, their insane quality sounds amazing. If I had a stronger computer or a more powerful computer, I would have this set up across the entire mix, maybe 4 or 5 of them. But the high quality sounds really good. The low quality is really cool for some lo-fi kind of reverb with some noticeable artifacts. There's a lot in this reverb that I really think you should just go and buy or grab a demo of it and check it out, because there's way too much for me to go over. But I want to see what this sounds like in a stock setting. So I'm going to have this on this vocal, just having it set at -8. Let's change that to -9. And let's see how it sounds in the mix, just set up in a stock default setting.
Close my eyes, I swear I see your ghost. It's like you're much too close to life. Better to keep you buried inside.
It gives it a very nice steel metallic plate sound. Let's take it out of the mix completely.
Close my eyes, I swear I see.
That sounds completely dry. That needs something to give it a sense of space. Now that we have that, just the general idea of how it sounds, let's go over the different materials so you can actually hear them.
Close my eyes, I swear I
That's steel.
see your
Let's go to gold.
ghost. It's like you're much too close to life.
Silver.
Better to keep you buried inside the
Let's go to
coffin.
titanium.
And I remember the pain, the
And
blisters
aluminum.
that came as I dug your grave. I cried, I prayed. I bring flowers to the burial
back to gold.
site nearly every night.
Now, like I said earlier, gold is my favorite. Gold has the most warmth to it, and it has a very smooth decay on the high end. And you can actually see it right here. Steel is very neutral, kind of has a little bit of a dip around 200 to 500. Gold is mostly focused in the low frequencies and the mid-range. Silver is again focused in those same frequencies, but has a little bit less of each. Titanium has a big predominant boost in 2K to 4 or 5K, and aluminum has a lot of lows and a lot of 2K. So for my taste, aluminum and gold are probably the ones that I go to the most. Next, let's go back to gold and let me show you the quality because this is a pretty crazy difference. We're going to start at low and slowly go up.
Close my eyes, I swear I see your ghost. It's like you're much too close to life.
If you listen really carefully, right around here, you can hear some kind of artifacts.
Like you're much too close to life.
And let's change that to insane.
Like you're much too close to life.
Notice how the reverb almost disappears. Let's listen to this in the mix with it set to insane quality.
Close my eyes, I swear I see your ghost. It's like you're much too close to life.
Let's bypass it.
Close my eyes, I swear I see
Back on.
your ghost. It's like you're much
And let's set this to low.
Better to keep you buried inside the coffin.
And go back to high.
Remember the pain, the blisters that came as I dug your grave. I cried, I prayed.
To my ears, insane has this very, very subtle and very, very sparse sound. And it pretty much gets rid of almost all artifacts that this thing can generate. So it gives you a very, very sparse sounding reverb, but it also has a very pristine and high quality sound. While high has a very nice, full, rich tone, low has some very noticeable artifacts, and anything in between is just kind of a step up into the next section. So low is basically the lowest quality you can go. Medium has less artifacts. High has a very nice sound. Very high has a much cleaner sound. Pristine, again, cleaner. And then insane sounds almost invisible, but that's because it pretty much gets rid of any unwanted artifacts. Next, let's change the size and the aspect ratio and the area.
Close my eyes, I swear I see your ghost. It's like you're
Bring up the reverb.
much too close to life. Better to keep you buried inside the coffin. And I remember the pain, the blisters that came as I dug your grave. I cried.
So you can really hear how this will affect the way this reverb will sound. It will completely change the tone. And now we have the actual speakers and the microphones. So let's change these up.
Close my eyes, I swear I see your ghost. It's like you're much too close to life. Better to keep you buried inside the coffin. And I remember the pain, the blisters that came
Go
as I
back to
dug.
default. And there we have it. That's pretty much a very simple, easy to understand way of how this sounds. So what I want to do next, the tension and modulation are really fun. So I'm going to bring up the reverb gain and we're going to bring up the tension so you can hear it. Set to 0.
Close my eyes,
set it all the way up.
I swear I see your ghost. It's like you're much too close.
It almost sounds like a synthesizer or something playing. So I'm going to bring this down to about 637 and we can hear the artifacts, but it's not going to be so overpowering.
Close my eyes,
Bring it
I
down.
swear I see your ghost. It's like you're much too close to
You can hear a lot more
life.
high end, more of a metallic sound.
Bring
it all the way down. A much warmer, richer sound. Now let's bring the modulation all the way up.
Close my eyes, I swear I see your ghost. It's like you're
You can hear it almost fluttering around into itself and giving it an almost pitch shifted sound. So if we bring this down to maybe about 12%, bring up the tension just a little bit, add a little bit of imperfections, change the overall size of this plate and the positioning, we'll get a completely different sound than what we started out with.
Close my eyes, I swear I see your ghost. It's like you're much too close to life.
Now what we can do is we can have a little bit of dampening in the high frequencies. Maybe just get rid of a little bit of air. Add a little bit more in the lower frequencies. Use the spline EQ, and we can actually get rid of some of the unwanted resonances.
Close my eyes, I swear I see your ghost. It's like you're much too close to life. Better to keep you buried inside the coffin. And I remember the pain, the blisters that came as I dug your grave.
That sounds really good. So now let's take this out of solo and let's take a listen to it in the mix.
Close my eyes, I swear I see your ghost. It's like you're much too close to life. Better to keep you buried inside the coffin. And I remember the pain, the blisters that came as I dug your grave. I cried, I prayed, I bring flowers to the burial site.
Cool, so as you see, when I change the volume, it obviously changes the tone, but now that we have a decent sounding plate, we can really dial this in. I'm gonna get rid of the tension and set this back to default and reduce a little bit of modulation and increase the send, and we should be able to hear a much more natural tone. I'm gonna have a little bit of a low cut just to cut a little bit of the unwanted lows, and let's take a listen to it. Set the decay to about 1.5 seconds.
Close my eyes, I swear I see your ghost. It's like you're much too close to life. Better to keep you buried inside the coffin. And
Let's bypass it.
remember the pain, the blisters that came as I dug your grave. I cried, I
Very smooth and very natural. In my opinion, this is definitely a go-to plate reverb. If you're a big fan of plate reverbs, which I am, especially on vocals, this is something you're going to want to check out and probably pick up. It has a lot of control and a lot more functionality than I can show you in a quick video. So I highly recommend checking it out. Anyway, with that said, that's going to be it for this video. This is Jeremy with In The DAW, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.